Reading the news is an indispensable part of our daily routines. Newspapers not only give us information on what's happening around us, but also reflect who we are as a nation. With our roots as a maritime port, it is thus no surprise that our very first newspaper was aimed at disseminating shipping and commercial news. What we have here is the Singapore Chronicle, Singapore's first newspaper. It was first published in 1824. Up until 1835, it was the only newspaper available in Singapore. It was published by the colonial government on the Mission Press, Singapore's first printing press. In 1823, Francis James Bernard, who was the son-in-law of Singapore's first British resident, William Farquhar, he put up the idea to have a newspaper published in Singapore. His idea was endorsed by the second resident of Singapore, John Crawfurd. John Crawfurd believed that the newspaper would contribute to the utility and respectability of Singapore. Singapore Chronicle was essentially a commercial newspaper targeted at the mercantile community. It would carry government notifications, advertisements put up by businesses and individuals. It would also list the imports and exports prices. And of course, it would carry news of happenings in Singapore as well as internationally. Singapore Chronicle was initially published as a fortnightly newspaper, but in 1826, a complementary single-sheet newspaper called the Commercial Register and Advertiser was produced. It was published every Saturday on a weekly basis, and subsequently in 1831, the Commercial Register and Singapore Chronicle merged to form one newspaper known as the Singapore Chronicle and Commercial Register. It was subsequently published as a weekly newspaper. At that time, Singapore Chronicle was the only newspaper in Singapore because of the Gagging Act by the British government. After 1835, the Gagging Act was lifted and Singapore saw its second newspaper, the Singapore Free Press. Due to the competition, the Singapore Chronicle was unable to cope and subsequently folded in 1837. Even though Singapore Chronicle was first published in 1824, what we have at the National Library of Singapore would be issues from 1831 to 1837. The British Library would have the copies after 1827, and we are working with the British Library to digitize these issues to make them available in our portal called Newspaper SG. These newspapers are part of Singapore literary heritage. The newspapers are fragile medium. By digitizing, we are able to preserve the content, and we would be able to make this information available to present and future generations.